This is the Schmo with the Pro, with the former undefeated Bellator and UFC middleweight and light heavyweight from the mean streets of Westland, Oregon, Chael P. Sonnen, the bad guy in the flesh, the Palms Casino. They got a buffet behind us just for you and I. How we doing?
They are treating us right over here. I mean, is this great or what? We're in the fight capital of the world holding a press conference for bare knuckle boxing. They're not even holding the event here, but they showed Vegas and the media enough respect to come to them. Look, bare knuckle is making some big moves.
And they didn't even just have a full buffet for us downstairs. They gave us the secret buffet upstairs after the press conference.
Yeah, okay, that's actually pretty cool. The audience may not know that, but nobody knows that this exists. This is for media only. Like the way you get the food, you don't have a special bracelet or something. You just have to know where it is, and only the Schmo and I have found it.
What's your biggest takeaway from that press conference? We got no opponent for Big Ben Rothwell. You got the Underground King against Chad Mendes. And then in the main event, you got Luke Rockhold facing Platinum Mike Perry.
Yeah, no, it's a problem. It's a real problem to look at what is the biggest fight. I mean, in many ways, when you talk about Eddie Alvarez and Chad Mendes and how these two have been separated, whatever they wanted to do, I'd be interested. Like if these two were just going to go grapple, that would be wildly compelling. If they were going to do MMA, now they've decided to just go and do boxing. And I know that Eddie thinks, because of his boxing background and being from Philadelphia and all the street fights that he had, that it gives him an advantage. And maybe Chad Mendes doesn't speak the same way, but Chad Mendes has had that same life. I mean, I'm just sharing with you, if you do want to look experienced, Chad's done this one time and Eddie's brand new. I mean, that's the fight right there. Somebody put a headline out this morning that I just happened to read that said this is the biggest purse in bare knuckle history. I mean, I don't know what's on the line there, but I think we're talking about $1 million a piece. I mean, I think that we're talking about this big of paychecks. Knowing the guys that wanted Eddie, knowing the guys that want Mendes. I mean, I can even move that to the main event to go out and be able to get Luke Rockhold, former world champion, a future Hall of Famer. I mean, this is a handsome guy. He's on billboards for Ralph Lauren and whatnot, but he's going to come over here, say what he's doing aside. It's a big risk for Luke Rockhold, right? Perception is reality in this sport, Schmo. For Luke Rockhold to take on a smaller guy, we don't do that in this business. You don't give us smaller guys. We don't fight smaller guys because the risk is so big. What happens if we lose, if we get caught by that guy? Luke said yes, and that's because they spoke to him in a certain kind of way, and I would really like to know more about those conversations.
Is this the pinnacle of bare knuckle boxing? Is this putting all your chips on the table and say, look, we got all these stars, we're putting them here, we're putting them in Denver, Colorado, April 29th. It's all in. It's do or die for this sport, huh?
Oh, yeah. So when you're talking about Dave Feldman has what we call haters, okay? The haters need to be more into this than the fans. Because if this doesn't work, then you all win. It's not going to get better. This is our best foot being put forward. So yes, all the haters, they're really the ones that need to make sure. See what's going on here. I cannot think of a better card. I haven't seen a better card. I was stunned when they got this one done. So it's only 3 weeks away. I mean, we're going to Denver. It's going to be exciting, Schmo.
And speaking of exciting, you saw the news. You got the merger now between one umbrella, Endeavor, UFC, and the WWE, $21 billion company. When you read that news, sipping on your morning coffee, Chael, and now you've had time to reflect on it, what's your overall thoughts?
It's very interesting. I've got to tell you, I think that there's some really big risks being made there to watch just what Vince McMahon has done from a distance. You know, seeing in this last year, they ran him out of his own company. He came and strong-armed it back in, even if that meant a relationship with his daughter. I mean, these are sharks. These are Vince McMahon sold 144,000 tickets over the weekend. 72,000, and he did it back-to-back nights. I mean, I just think that it's very exciting. You know, one thing that Ari did disclose is a valuation of WWE at $9 billion, but he had a valuation of the UFC, you know, which has only been around for 22 years. WWE, that goes back to 1983, and that's just Vince McMahon. Vince's dad had it before that. I'm just sharing with you. When you do look at what Dana has done in 20 years, and he's got a valuation of $3 billion more, and when you see 9 versus 12, you think that doesn't sound like a lot? Let me just put in perspective for you. For that $12 billion the UFC is worth, you could have bought the WWE and had them throw the Lakers in. Okay, just so you understand, you'd have them too for what Dana has turned a company in 2 decades, man. It's shocking.
It's like quadrupled in 7 years. So who do you think will be the first active UFC star to cross over inside the WWE ring? We're talking potentially the same weekend, Chael.
Well, listen, I mean, in any other universe, I would assume that Ciryl Gane just did it with that work that he did against John Jones. I would assume that they kind of like got ahead of things, but looking at it now, I mean, I see guys getting thirsty. I don't see Conor McGregor looking thirsty, licking his lips too often, but he's already sending out pictures that he wants to go do WWE, man. That was a miss by McGregor. Let them come to us.
So you don't have a name.
We're always the guys. We're always the little kiss asses that want to have the great sport, and we want to be mainstream, want to do all these things. And the first chance there is to turn your back on your sport and go do something else. I mean, there hadn't been a UFC fighter that was offered a movie and he didn't say yes. There had been a UFC fighter that couldn't go do a little cameo in some show that never even made it to the theaters, and he doesn't say yes. There hasn't been a fighter that hasn't talked about going and doing boxing. Have those guys do it the other way. At some point, stand up for yourself in your sport. Leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. Let's talk about someone who's standing up for themselves. So let's talk about the welterweight division, 170 pounds. Let's talk about Belal Muhammad. He wanted that title shot badly, but Dana White, he announced Colby Covington. He's getting the crack at Leon Edwards. It looks like they're going to be doing that over in London, midsummer. So if you're Belal Muhammad, what do you do to ensure that you're the next in line to get that title shot?
And so, boy, I mean, they're talking about, I think the Belal Muhammad fills in right now for the qualifications to be a backup fighter. I think the backup spot is a very coveted spot. Some guys don't agree with me, but if you go and ask Michael Chandler how well it worked out with him, or you ask Kamaru Usman himself, or you ask what's about to be Colby Covington, it's a very coveted spot. And I think that it's one that Belal might want to look at. I do believe the rumors are true about Belal taking on Rachmanov. The big problem with that is when Dana came out and announced we're working on something big for Belal, he protected Rachmanov's name. That's not generally the way you would do it for the B-side. And I do think that there's at least a little bit of room. Ian Parker had made a suggestion, but he said perhaps it isn't Rachmanov. Perhaps it's the real #1 contender that everybody's forgetting about already, Kamaru Usman. Perhaps Belal is going to get in there with Kamaru, which obviously would be a true #1 contenders match. So I'm open to that idea, but it just sounds like he's got one left.
There it is. Let's talk about the middleweight division because we have a huge rematch in the title fight this weekend, UFC 287 in Miami. It's all on the line for Izzy. He's getting that rematch against Pereira. But if Israel does not win and get his hand raised, where does he go from there?
Yeah, what a tough spot. And he's already talking about, he wants to go to 205 and he wants to mix it up. He said that he doesn't want to fight the same opponents, which I get. I don't know how Izzy has got his mind right to fight the same guys over and over again. Even Pereira, whether that's his rival or not, man, 4 times in there with the same guy. It was getting ready to be 2 times in there with Paulo Costa. He already did 2 times in there with Marvin. He already did 2 times in there with Whitaker. I mean, this is right off the top of my head. I'm just sharing with you that I think that the #1 thing that Izzy needs is he needs to burn his ships. The talk about I can get a rematch, or if I beat you, then Pierre, then they're just going to rematch it. And even if it's Dana steps in, but somebody needs to create urgency, and we also need to make it very clear to the fans and the fighters, we're not doing this again. I don't care if you guys have fought twice and kicked, and you did. I don't care what the score is. All the chips are in on this one. Whatever happens here, we all agree this settles the dispute, and you move on in life. We need that type of urgency by both athletes, and I'm not positive that Adesanya has created that environment for himself yet.
May 6th is the next UFC pay-per-view. A guy you know well, the Schmo knows well. Henry Cejudo fighting Aljamain Sterling. This is a big, big fight because Henry Cejudo was talking C4, fighting Volkanovski, coming back in the UFC. Obviously, this is 135 pounds. There's legacy for both. Huge implications. What are your expectations as this thing leads up? Because it's real, it's here. We see the videos going out on both their sides because both these guys are active on the YouTube.
Well, that whole division, I mean, you're talking about 135 having a spotlight on it. It's incredible. You look at their biggest star appears to be Sugar Sean. He's put in the #1 contendership position. I just think that speaks really well to the 135 pounders. I think they should all, including Peter Yan, be very proud of what they've done. And it turns out with Aljo, he's a hell of a lot better than we knew he was. I mean, that's I don't have any other way to word it. The night that he took Sandhagen down and choked him out in 40 seconds, I chalked up to Sandhagen not being prepared for that position. It took the next fights with Sandhagen, seeing him in there with his most recent work with Cheeto, but I could even back it up to the night he fought Frank Yeager. That's when I start to realize, no, Sandhagen's really good. Aljo's better. And, seeing what Aljo did to TJ Dillashaw, nobody treats TJ Dillashaw like that. No, I don't care if he had one shoulder or no shoulder. Nobody treats TJ Dillashaw like that. Aljo's better than we knew that he was. And I think that Henry's aware of that. Henry is the ultimate competitor. Some people say he's the ultimate fighter, the ultimate athlete. He's at least the ultimate competitor. But I think that somewhere along the way, Henry probably had the same realization that I had, looking at Aljo going, man, that cute young kid from New York is one hell of a cage fighter.
Well, let's talk about that division. One more question to follow up. Umar Nurmagomedov, a guy who can't seem to get a fight. Maybe he's being linked to Merab Dvalishvili, who's the #1 contender, who won't fight his buddy Aljamain Sterling. if you were to make your prediction, who does Umar fight? Is it Merab?
Well, I know that Merab is a very good option. Somebody else, was it Sugar Sean? Somebody else created some problem there and just called Merab's name. I will tell you this. The one guy that will fight either one of them that gets completely left out and behind the scenes has been offered and stepped up multiple times is my teammate Ricky Simone. Ricky Simone beat Merab, but he's offered to redo that match. He's been told that match wasn't scored correctly or whatever the controversy was, but Ricky has offered to redo it. I'm just sharing that with you. Ricky doesn't come out and defend himself, but that's the way that should work. If you're offered a fight behind the scenes, you say yes, and the other guy says no, you should get credit, but it's not working that way. Ricky's not the one getting the main event fights. He's not getting the number one contenders fights. He's not being linked to Aljo, but he beat the guy that is. I mean, at some point, the same goes for Nurmagomedov. If they can't find a dance partner, call me up. I'll put you in touch with Ricky.
He's the bad guy. He knows his stuff. He's the broadcaster. He's the movie star. He's the YouTuber. What can't he do? Final message for all the Chael Sonnen fans out there worldwide.
Final message worldwide, man. This is a bare knuckle day. We got the buffet. We got the schmo. We got Miss Helen working the microphone. I got RP in the corner bucket. We're going to go make our own videos, but it really is about bare knuckle. So if you got a chance to share this or spread the word to somebody, Feldman's the one that brought us together. Let's make sure he gets the credit.
BKFC 41, Denver, Colorado, April 29th. Can't miss event. He's the pro. I'm the schmo. The Palms. We're out.